Hey guys, so you know how about just every interview that I do includes me saying something like, hey, today we have something special, or hey guys, you're never gonna believe who we're interviewing today. Yeah, well, you might not actually believe who we're interviewing today because it is Satoshi Nakamoto himself, the man, the myth in some cases, the legend. Well, I mean, actually, we're talking to Craig Wright, and Craig Wright's one of the first developers of BTC, and he's the creator of Bitcoin SV. He claims to be Satoshi Nakamoto himself, but I'm going to let you guys decide. Enjoy the interview. Hey, Craig, how you doing today? Hope your mood is high.
Oh, very well. I'm not doing too badly at all.
Great.
Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I was hoping to ask you some questions about Bitcoin. It's something everyone wants to hear about, particularly Bitcoin SV. Perhaps we're just going to discuss the biggest issue that there is there with the hard fork and start with that. So last year, due to disagreements between the two groups of developers, as everyone knows, Bitcoin ABC and Bitcoin SV, there's a fork. So originally you supported SV. Can you tell us what the problem was and what really happened?
I support the original Bitcoin. I always have, I always will.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin SV is the original Bitcoin. It hasn't changed much, and what is changed we're fixing. The fork in 2017 was BTC. That was the fork.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. There's no SegWit or no any other crud there in Bitcoin. If you read the white paper, it's a chain of digital signatures. If you go into the section on nodes, there's a nice little index list there going through what nodes do. And nodes verify and build. So if you're not actually mining, you're not a node.
Mm-hmm. And as a result of the fork, most of the crypto exchanges and wallets ended up taking the side of ABC.
You mean the gambling houses?
Yes.
Yes, the bucket shops, which argue basically how they're legal because it's crypto, which later this year will start getting cracked down on. And the wonderful thing, the thing I love most about Bitcoin is, unlike web IPO, free IPO, and all these other scams that happened in the 90s, where you're too young, but there were BBS and bulletin board things, and people would dial in and get tokenized securities. And they would sell them and trade them, and people would do airdrops and all the rest. Exactly what we have now. Now, unlike now, where people deleted everything, there's actually an audit trail that goes back so that years later they can still track and trace you and put you in jail. That's the wonders of blockchain. Not that you can do ICOs and everyone can run things and scam things out and pull people, but years later, those criminals can be dragged out wherever the hell they hit and taken to jail.
Do you think there's a reason why certain media ran with the fact that they thought that ABC Camp won?
There's no real media there.
No, I guess I'm talking about like
Reuters is media. These guys are a bunch of promoters,
mm-hmm.
And unlicensed promoters. The various like FCA, FSA, SEC, FINRA, etc. all require registration for promoters. So none of these people are licensed. So illegal security trading, illegal promotion.
Mm-hmm. And if we're going to talk about what happened at the end of the year with the market crash, there's an opinion that the split showed, not the split, but
market. Market by definition means the use and consumption of goods, services, and commodities.
Mm-hmm. Now,
to consume Bitcoin means that you're actually using it. You're actually using it as cash and paying a mining fee. You're using it to store data on the blockchain, what BTC and Luke call spam. You're doing all of those things that actually make it an informational sort of commodity, which actually makes it valuable. That's a market. The rest is a casino, illegal bucket shop casinos. What you're saying is the manipulated false value of crypto that a whole lot of people were conned into believing because there's no real use. The Ponzi collapsed, but Ponzi's always collapse.
And do you think that this is going to continue to collapse?
Yes, so this is a protocol war.
Mm-hmm.
Only one survives, and the only way it survives is the one with the largest on-chain use.
Okay. And how do you think the hard fork affects the industry and the market in a real way?
I don't really care. Other people broke off and became not Bitcoin. more than that, I don't really care.
Okay. Is there a reason do you think this is so difficult for people to stay with Satoshi's original vision?
This actually started in 2013. So everyone was happy with Satoshi's original vision when they believed that it suited their goals. Now, in 2013, Silk Road collapsed. Now, with the collapse of Silk Road, people started realizing that Bitcoin's private. Private means not anonymous. Private is traceable. It leaves records. There's a big distinction. Private means that the parties actually have records of engagement and interaction. So it is completely, utterly separate than what many people say. Private is always going to be something you don't want to commit crimes on because there's records. And digitally signed records mean that you can actually have these as admissible evidence straight into court that you committed a crime. So we have 2013 with Silk Road. The computers of Ross's were captured and people started going to jail. Very simple. So at the same time, people started running around going, Bitcoin's broken. Here's the thing, Bitcoin was never meant to be anonymous. If I wanted Bitcoin to be anonymous, I could have had it anonymous. David Chaum's eCash is actually anonymous. Now, if you have a distributed version of eCash, allowing you to have blinded sessions and all the rest, that would actually give you anonymity.
Okay.
And to some extent, we can track and trace that and understand what people are doing, as long as we keep small amounts and all the rest. But the reality is, Bitcoin's not designed to actually be anonymous.
Interesting. All right. And speaking of Satoshi, you have stated that you created Bitcoin under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. A lot of people would ask, how can they confirm this? I would argue that a lot of people
care.
Yeah.
There's one thing, and I keep saying this, proof of work. There's no way to confirm something that hasn't been confirmed in the past. The simple thing is, if I was to sign publicly, there are people who've talked to Gavin and all the rest. And the statement is, yes, he's got the keys. But how do I have the keys? That's the next question. And after all of the debacle back in 2016, people ran around going, well, he must have stolen the keys. Mm-hmm. So it's very simple. They don't want someone like me. I used to teach it sort of periodically at the Police Academy in Australia. I did the judge prosecutor training for the federal police for cybercrime. So I taught judges about information technology crimes. I worked with all these people, and the last thing they actually want is a computer security expert who worked on the non-anarchist side. The side, I don't like big government. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in government, because quite frankly, to misquote Mises, anarchists are idiots. If you look at his book on liberalism, I've slightly paraphrased that, but that is stated in the book 6 times. He calls them deluded and other such things, but the simple way of putting it is anarchists are idiots. And he expounds why and explains it and all the rest. And I've actually been to countries where there is anarchy. The simple thing that happens is anarchy results in people forming groups, forming tribes, forming feudal societies. Feudal societies that battle each other. They don't actually have a common set of law or agreement. It's a full degrading of things. Idea that humans were once nice, that there's ever been a point in history where we all got along, is bunk. That has been disproven.
So you talked about government. Could we talk about the regulation for a second, actually?
Yeah, certainly.
See, countries are trying to regulate the crypto industry more and more. Do you think authorities should interfere into this market as it is, or do you think the market
need to do anything new? Because everything's actually covered. I can speak, not for every country, of course, but I can speak for the EU and the UK, which is where I'm a legal researcher. And I can also speak for China and the US, where I also research. there's nothing particularly new when it comes to Bitcoin. The first idea of a token money case was the case of mixed money. That was actually 1605, so before computers. And the law doesn't care. A token's a token. So if you're saying a digital token, it actually makes no difference legally. You can look at cases like in Terry's, Lord Denning, where he's talking about distribution of information by telex. Sabaro Mining Industries Private is a recent one talking about the negotiation of smart contracts, etc., effectively, based on email exchanges, so ongoing email exchanges as writing in a bill of exchange. So being that the courts have actually recognised email, fax, telex, etc. as writing, it's not a big leap. So we have negotiable instruments. People don't understand equities are a form of security, but they're only one. There are hundreds. You don't seem to realise that your home mortgage, if you have one, or your car lease is actually a type of security.
Yeah.
Now, they're not protected by the SEC in the US or the FCA over here because they're a different type of security. They're covered by different organizations. And utility tokens, there's existing laws going back to the 80s on those, and on pre-sale law even further. Because that's what it is. It's actually a securitized asset. So a securitized asset is a form of security. So to have a pre-sale, you have a securitized agreement where I have a right to access some good or service at a later time. So effectively, you're selling before you have the item, which if you think about when you go into a store or something like that, or even with Amazon sometimes sells you books that are not due for another 6 months.
Yeah.
Now, you have rights as the purchaser under a pre-sale agreement. Now, Amazon don't get to use that money as capital. It's income. They have to pay tax on it. They have to pay VAT. They can claim it back later if they return the goods, but that's all required. So if you're doing a pre-sale, there are limits to how much you can actually do. There is a necessary registration of the charge. You have to pay tax. So where these people have said, "Oh, we raised $50 million or £50 million," how many have paid sales tax? And this is the fun thing. This is an immutable blockchain. You think 6 years from now, when the tax office, the IRS, or over here, our one in Britain, wakes up, that they won't go back? The limitations is 20 years for tax fraud, sometimes longer. So there are going to be a whole lot of people who realise that, hey, I'm turning 50, and look, I'm getting arrested for something I did in my 30s.
Well, if we can actually talk about the numbers for a bit, what we know for sure is Bitcoin exists and it's developing. So since 2017, there's been a very long bearish trend that's been prevailing in the market. And last year alone, Bitcoin lost 73% of its value and altcoins lost 90% or more.
No, it didn't have any value. The value of BTC, which is not Bitcoin, is about maybe 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
It's an informational commodity. You have 1 meg cap. Forget this BS about SegWit has more or whatever, it doesn't. It actually has less because you're printing information, and that makes it less valuable. You have now even less with Lightning because under FISMA and other such things, there are legal requirements for money handlers, which Lightning nodes, being a promissory note exchanger, are required to do. Requires an immutable data store. Under the Act, and also Sarbanes-Oxley, etc., handlers, someone running a Lightning node would be required under penalty of criminal sanctions to maintain every single transaction that's ever made, every exchange, every payment channel, etc. If they fail to keep one, and it's not stored on immutable media, not that it settles at the end, a single thing is lost. That's actually a criminal offence. Now, so you've got this whole move towards criminalisation of the system, which devalues it, and then you've got a small cap. which it's an informational data store, so that devalues it further. Bitcoin was never about this little tiny block size. Bitcoin is not designed to ever run on home user things because home users aren't nodes. They do squat. It's a lie designed to help propagate Silk Road. That's all it's about.
So instead of saying the market collapsed, could we just say that the investors lost faith in whatever this was?
What investors? Sorry, you mean the gamblers with no clue or idea. Investors haven't lost faith. I've got friends in the industry like Calvin Ayre and others who are investing. I've got friends I met, investors and other people I've talked to who are investing. Investing means that you're not just speculating. To invest, you need information. You need to understand what's happening. You need to build and create. So, no, sorry, there's no investors in BTC. There are gamblers. Okay. Fools, day traders. You can't be a day trader and be an investor, by definition. You cannot, and there's no way possible to understand the daily ticks. So, no, there are no investors.
If we talk about authorities, and if the authorities don't have to intervene, how can we act with Bitcoin ETF, for example, or the futures delivery with backed? The SEC is constantly postponing their launch. What do you think of all of these upcoming, things that could happen in the coming years?
Well, again, Bitcoin is not BTC, so stop saying that. You could call it Call Coin, Segwit Coin, BTC, whatever you want, but I'm not sitting here as we say lies about that crap. Basically, there won't be an ETF. To be an ETF, there are requirements. They can argue that it's a commodity, but to be a commodity, it needs to be a needs to be a commodity. It needs to be used. It also has requirements on Vega. If you know anything about econometrics or whatever else, there are certain aspects of the movement of commodities that need to be sort of taken note of when you're doing an ETF. You need to have a limit on volatility. So there isn't one. There can't be one. They can debate and whatever else, all they want, and say, we're going to get it through, and we're going to hold things and all the rest, and it isn't happening. Mm-hmm. If there was, that would be the perfect opportunity to actually sue the crud out of the US government. It's actually a breach of existing legislation. And once you put it into correct terms, rather than the lies people tell them, it would be massively damaging.
All right, Craig, that's all the questions that I really have for you today. Just want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay.
All right, thanks, Craig. Well, guys, is Craig Wright the real Satoshi Nakamoto? And what do you guys think about the prospects of Bitcoin SV? How about you let me know down below in the comments? And more importantly, in the comment section, maybe let me know who you think Nakamoto is. I mean, could be Luis, right? Always had my eye on that guy. Very suspicious. Huh. But in the meantime, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching Nakamoto Jedi.